This is a super tragic, heartbreaking case. As many of them, or pretty much all of them, are. But in this case, we're talking about the tragic death of a little toddler boy named Cooper Harris. He was only 22 months old when he passed away. Now, the way that this little boy died was in a hot car where he was left by his father for an entire 7 hours on a hot day in Georgia, right in the direct sunlight. And the question here is, was it an accident or was it murder? Now, this is a solved case, and it was found to be murder, but there is still a lot of mystery surrounding what really happened, and a lot of people are still unsure. So that's why we're going to talk about it today and see if any of you guys have any thoughts, which I'm sure you do. I love hearing your thoughts, so keep them coming. Alright, so let's start with Cooper's mother. Her name is Leanna. She grew up in a town called Demopolis, I hope I'm saying that right, Alabama. She was raised by a single mother. She was introverted and shy, but she was an honest person. She had thoughts of becoming a nurse when she grew up, but her main interest was always to become a wife and mother. Now, when she was 20, she met Justin Ross Harris. He goes by the name Ross, so that is what we will be calling him. So she met Ross. She was 20, and Ross was 23. He was born in November of 1980 in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Now, he was pretty much an exact opposite of Leanna. He was extroverted. He was like a fun-loving guy. He was working as a 911 dispatcher at the time when they met. But they really hit it off. They fell in love like immediately. And it was kind of like their level of being opposites really helped each other out. In other words, he helped her out of her shell because she had been so introverted before, and she helped him to kind of focus Ross should have driven up to the intersection and made a left to the daycare center, but he didn't. Instead, he went straight through the intersection to his job, which was just about a half a mile from Chick-fil-A and about a 2-minute drive. So, is it possible that Cooper fell asleep in 2 minutes, having been wide awake and talkative? Did he fall asleep and just become super quiet in 2 minutes? And was that enough time for Ross to forget that Cooper was there? Just something to think about. So he got to work, got right out of the car within 30 seconds, and went into work. And I don't need to say it, but obviously see if I left my baby in the car. He's talking like that, basically. Now, let's stop there and let's talk about Leanna. Remember, she was going to pick up Cooper at daycare. So she goes over there. Figure it must be somewhere around, close to 5 o'clock-ish. She doesn't know anything, right? This has all happened already, though, because Ross got into his car at 4:15, and that all went down, pretty fast, I think. So now it's like almost 5. She goes to the daycare. She asks them, okay, hello, can I get my son, Cooper? And they're like, Cooper never came in today. So the first thing she says is, I wonder if Ross left him in his car. That's what she said. It's kind of weird. It doesn't really point to anything, though, because if she knew that was going to happen, then she certainly wouldn't have said it out loud. You know what I mean? Like, if she was in on it and it was planned, then why would she just say that? So that seems coincidental to me. But that's what she said. And she couldn't get in touch with anyone on the phone, so the daycare worker, or one of them, goes with her in the car over to her husband's job to see what's up. And when they get there, Ross is not there, his car is not there, and everyone inside is watching the TV. The 5 o'clock news is on, and they're all glued to it. It's telling the story of an unknown, baby who has died in a hot car. She asks the daycare worker, hey, what is everyone looking at on the TV? And he tells her. At which point her phone rings, and it's the police. And they say, where are you? We're gonna come down and talk to you where you are. So she's starting to, piece this together. They come down, they tell her, we hate to tell you, we don't know how to say this, but your child is deceased. To which she showed no emotion. And the only thing she said was, where is my husband? And we can't judge her because, she could be in shock. She already had some idea this was going on, And so I don't know what to make of that. I mean, not everybody loses it. If it were me, forget it. I don't want to think about it being me, but I would be on the floor. You would need a spatula to get me off the floor. Okay, that's it. But anyway, she goes over to the police station and she goes into the interrogation room where her husband is. Now, she believes that it is an accident, okay? Which it may be, okay? We don't know. She believes it's an accident, but his sex that he forgot about his son. So that is what the defense was saying. They were saying, yes, he's not a good guy, okay? He's a cheater and all this. Fine, yes he is, but he's not a murderer. And the defense even brought his wife. She said she knew about some of this stuff. Like, she knew he had a porn addiction, but she thought he had it under control. And she knew he had sexted with people in the past. She didn't know the extent of it, though. And she said they were in counseling, like, up until the incident. But even knowing all of that, and finding out that it was actually worse than she thought, she still did not believe that he did it on purpose. She says she wants nothing more to do with him, and he ruined her life. But she doesn't think that it was murder. It was just an accident. The prosecution also found that 5 days before the incident, Ross had watched a video of a man talking about pets being left in a hot car. And it showed like how hot it would get as time passed. So that didn't look good. Why was he watching that? So ultimately, he was found guilty of 8 counts, one of which was felony murder. And he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility for parole, plus 32 years on top of that. He has appealed, and I believe that his most recent appeal was heard in January of 2022, and I don't think they have said yet whether or not he's going to be granted the, new trial. But in his appeal, he's basically saying that everything was very prejudicial against him because, they brought out all these, like, dirty photos and stuff, trying to kind of, make the jury hate him for something that has nothing to do with the crime at hand. So we'll see what happens there. But anyway, what do we all think? Was it an accident? Or